Shadril Mossthorn watched the dwarf go by with some interest before he brought his eyes back to the board. "A boar hunt," he said with obvious pleasure. "That's something I haven't been on in a while." He looked over the contents of the posting. "It sure pays a lot. More than you'd think." He found that strange and glanced over at Ash. Aisling Thello inched forward, gray eyes settling on the parchment. "Well, you're right about the price." She paused, waiting a moment until a dwarf passed. "Maybe this village is filled with inept hunters," she choked softly, chuckling. "If we're going to give it a go, we should be quick. Otherwise, this might be one muddy hunt." Up above, the charcoal clouds hovered on the horizon. The air felt heavy and damp. A storm was brewing. Shadril Mossthorn nodded his head as he took off the posting. "I'm sure they have hunters here who aren't that awful. They seem well fed, so I'd assume they hunt well." He gave a shrug, eyes looking towards an armored dwarf near a well. "Make sure you go and buy some equipment from the trader. They'll have what we need here." He looked around for a moment, unsure of where that person he spoke of was located. "I'll go and turn this in and haggle a price. It should be the same person in this village." Aisling Thello nodded, her mouth scrunched up at the side, disappointed her jest had not landed well with Shadril. "Alright, though I'm not sure I'll need many supplies." A thought drifted into her mind, and a mischievous expression brightened Ash's face. "Though I am curious about your haggling skills, I can't imagine you as a hard-driving bargain maker." She snorted at the idea. "But I'm sure you'll do well. You're always cool under pressure, Shad." Shadril Mossthorn just gave her a flat look. "Sure, Ash. Sure." He gave her a pat hard enough to let her know that he understood her slight towards him. "He's over here, Commander." He made sure to use the title and really stress it this time. He smiled winningly from behind the mask. "I should have changed out of this gear before we left," he said as he walked. Aisling Thello sighed at Shadril mentioning her title before following him along the gravel path, admiring the mossy roof of the dwelling they had entered. Ash tripped up the stairs slightly, but quickly regained her footing, shooting Shad a sheepish look. Served her right for her comment earlier. "Hello," Ash greeted the supplier enthusiastically. "Winifred Earlywind says, 'Thank ya. What will you be needing today?'" She then looked at Shadril. "You're gonna take the boar hunt, I see. I'd be careful around that one. It's big." Aisling Thello grinned. "Well, I guess it's a good thing we're big too." She paused, realizing her audience and how that could be taken. Ash quickly began motioning with her hands haphazardly. "I didn't mean it like that. Sorry if it offended you. Moving on. Is there a favorite food of this boar? Something we can lure it out with?" Embarrassment colored her cheeks a rosy hue. She hoped the shopkeeper wouldn't turn them away now. Shadril and Bellin would never shut up about it if she did. A soft, flighty breeze swept through, blowing Ash's hair into her eyes. Winifred Earlywind says, "None taken. You tall people never think that maybe you're just giants in a small people's world." She gave him a smile. "As for what'll draw it out, nothing that we know of. However, we do know the location of its lair." She looked at Shadril again. "You'll get the base payment of 100 gold. Shadril Mossthorn shook his head. "I don't think that's how things work on these things." He pointed at the posting again. "It's been up there for a while. You can tell by the discoloring on the paper. So this is something that's been harassing your people for a while. We'll gladly take the job for 100 gold. But if this thing is misrepresented, we'll come back looking for a bigger fee." He looked at Ash, and nodded that he knew what he was doing. Winifred Earlywind says, "You'll get the base pay of 100 gold coins. Bring me its tusks, and maybe we'll speak on further compensation." She nodded at Shadril. "Now, human, what do you need besides rations and water?" Aisling Thello was rather surprised. The Shadril next to her now was different than the Shadril she was accustomed to spending time with. But she supposed it made sense. He was ancient in comparison to her. He had plenty of time to perfect all sorts of skills. Behind them, the flickering fire popped sharply, embers skittering through the air. "Oh, I think I'm alright. Thanks," Ash said, fingers tucking unruly hair behind her ear. "I've got bandages with me. Also, expect the tusks." Her tone was self-assured, as was the winning smile across her lips. Shad bought some extra water and supplies. If things got terrible somehow, he'd at least have food and water. He motioned to thank you before walking off with Ash. See? That's something that hasn't changed over the years. Haggling. He lightly chuckled at his own words. He looked back towards the shopkeeper, remembering he'd forgotten to ask about the location. The dwarf simply pointed in the right direction, and he gave a nod of thanks. Well, that's settled. Aisling Thello felt energy buzz in her veins. Though she'd been enjoying her time in the city, it was nice to get out and do something that was both relaxing and challenging, but not too much of either. Shall we name him? Ash giggled. The boar, I mean. I think he, or she, deserves a name at least. Light thunder rumbled across the sky. Shadro Mostrom gave her a questioning look. We're about to kill this creature. Seems a bit morbid. But I know how you humans are. I've done my study. He laughed and motioned her forward. Let's go. He watched the clouds for a few moments, hoping it wouldn't start a downpour like in Stormwind these days. Aisling Thello snorted. Off we go. Adventure and gold await. She took in a deep breath, savoring the scent of pine. Birds chirped merrily. It's kind of nice being out in the wilderness, isn't it? Oh, look, Shad! Deer! Ash pointed excitedly, stopping to watch. Also, your negotiation skills are top-notch. Fair play. Admiration drenched her words. Shadro Mostrom looked at the ground and searched for tracks. He motioned her forward again. He went this way. He began searching through some brush for clues before speaking again. So what made you choose this line of work, Ash? He was hacking through the vegetation with his glaives. Aisling Thello followed, impressed with his tracking ability. She liked to think of herself at home in nature, but truthfully her experience was limited. Ah, well, I suppose it was really all I could do, Ash said, traces of sadness settling into her tone. My parents owned a bakery, and that was to be my future until the whole Worgen thing happened. It's a bit different now, but back then, those of us who were changed weren't quite as trusted or welcomed. I went into one of the only lines of work that I could, one that needed people who were strong and fast. Ash sighed, watching as Shadril decimated the lush vegetation. I suppose you probably understand that, considering what you are. Shadril Mostrom nodded his head in agreement. It is understandable. He didn't find anything until he noticed a rock with a marking on it. This way. He was silent for a bit before speaking again. Yes, things certainly went into the fire those years for your people. Maybe it's why I found it easier to be around your kin in Stormwind. Though, all children look at me in strange ways. Humans are just so small at times. He looked around for a long moment. Aisling Thello slipped through a pair of sturdy trees. Yeah, it's always easier to be around those that have similar experiences. Others, they can empathize, but they can never really truly understand. She thought of home, her family and old friends, the way they looked at her after her change. Ash shook the memories away, replacing her somber expression with one with joy. More tracks? Ash chirped, glancing over Shad's shoulder. How did you become so good at tracking anyways? I'm discovering all these new things about you. Recruiting you has proven to be like recruiting 100 men. Shadro Mostrom pointed at the glowing orbs that were his eyes. Spectral sight, Ash. I don't see the same way you do. It's one of the things I lost long ago. Most, if not all demon hunters do lose their sight, and not permit going bad on them. He mimed that they had ripped out their own eyes. I suppose you could say, I see colors and auras. He motioned her forward. Also, you paid me well, so that's why I stick around. He laughed at his own jest, eyes searching for more clues. Aisling Thello cringed, picturing what it would be like to have her eyeballs mercilessly ripped from their sockets. She snorted at his joke. Oh, is that how it is? And here I thought you stuck around because you enjoyed my company. Ash chuckled. They crested a hill now. Lightning and soaring birds dotted the ominous sky. Well, hopefully this boar isn't a crafty fellow and pulling a trick over on us, leading us to a high spot where lightning will strike. Then will be his barbecue instead of the other way around. Shad laughed and nodded in agreement. Let's hope that's not the reason. He searched around for a bit before locating another clue. Down there. He motioned her forward once again. If you weren't being a bastion whacker, what do you think you'd be doing? I suppose I could ask, if you didn't get infected, where do you think you'd be right now? He took a knee as he searched for more clues and tracks. Aisling Thello carefully made her way down the hill. Her heavy boots sank into the spongy earth. That's an easy one. Baking. She perked up even more, though this time it was clearly natural, not an act. I love baking. I still do it often. Owning a successful sweet shop would have been my dream. Less exciting than this, I know, but rewarding all the same. Ash paused, eyes scanning Shad up and down. What about you? Truthfully, Ash wasn't sure what she could imagine Shadril doing. A teacher, maybe? Yes, she could see that. Shadril Mossthorn rubbed at his head for a moment as he considered it. I don't know. I guess I could have continued being a druid. My parents were both druids, so yeah, maybe that. He laughed as he thought about it, a life he'd been deprived of because of the Burning Legion. He pointed with his right hand. I think that's the lair. He pointed towards a mass of vegetation and hedges. It's why I lived in Winter Springs when the attacks happened. He looked at her for a long moment. Way before your time, but I'm sure you know what I speak of. He chuckled, eyes looking into the bushes, but also watching the birds in the trees.